Hey there, Tranquillian here, and yes, it's me. It's not, you could say, an AI voice this time around. Well, I've decided we'll put the AI voices aside for this video. I want to do this one, as you could say, one of my official bits of content. I'm feeling quite a bit better now since I've took the amoxicillin, and I feel more ready to be able to do my own videos again. I just hope you didn't get the idea of switching completely to AI, because that's very untrue. I don't like the idea of AI doing all my video. I would rather be able to have some input into it myself. I've never been that type, and I just want you to know that all the songs here, they're all my own. I write the songs. So just want you to bear that in mind, that everything on this channel has human input, even if AI makes it. Anyway, I'm here tonight to talk to you about some of the syndromes that plague Tranquillians. I want to try and make this as quick as I can. It's not going to be as quick as one of the videos, I'm afraid, but it's probably going to be better quality. So sit back, relax, and I'd now like to talk to you a little bit about our first syndrome, which is going to be Tranquillian. Okay, this syndrome was first diagnosed in, I think it was the end of 2024 into 2025, and it was first present in Tara and Scarlet, the two deer of the wind, who are so named because they can absorb wind in their tail and then run with the power of that wind without even using their own energy, which is a pretty incredible ability. Now these do get on very, very infant-like, as you probably have heard before. They are the most infant-like out of nearly all the Tranquillians. They squeal rather than actually say words most of the time, and when they do talk to you, they talk to you like hesitant, almost staccato-like speech, where they would greet you with like, instead of saying hello, how are you, they might say hey, how are you, or something like that. And they normally struggle to find their words, especially if they're stressed or anything. Tranquillians can suffer from that. But the other thing the Tranquillians can suffer from, and it is argued it could come from its neighbouring syndrome, which we're going to talk about in a moment, is emotional trouble. Now when I say emotional trouble, it's not so much that they'll go to anger, they normally will go to sadness and emotion. Basically meaning that they can just sometimes cry for no reason, which is really sad to see. And we're always there to look after them when they're going through that. That can be nice for them. I have a very soft side for my Tranquillians, and I think it's because I've given these conditions that I have such a soft side for them now. It's made me more sensitive as a result. And yes, extremely sensitive. I should let you know, extremely sensitive beings, Tranquillians. You can't really banter with a Tranquillian being, I'm afraid. Okay, so now we're going to go on to its neighbouring syndrome. Its neighbouring syndrome always sounds more controversial than it really is. This is Rabidius syndrome. Rabidius syndrome, named after this cute blue wolf pup here, is a condition that affects animals, and it looks at first like a type of rabies, giving it its name. For that reason, animals affected with Rabidius syndrome are called rabid. It uses the same word as used to describe something as rabies. But let me just clarify similarities and then the very, you could say, very differences between the two. There are some slight rabies effects with Rabidius syndrome. One is severe emotional trouble. Two is, for those who have it really bad, hallucinations. And three is hydrophobia, but very mild hydrophobia. To name off some Tranquillians that have various traits of these, Persona, who is basically a rabid dog. Well, he's known as the rabid dog because he has Rabidius syndrome. A lot of Rabidius creatures, you will notice, follow the same colour scheme, which is quite interesting, and that is blue and white with red eyes. You will see this colour scheme in a lot of creatures with Rabidius. don't really know why I made them all like that. I think it was just an idea that I wanted to keep it sort of consistent, and I thought it was a very funky colour scheme, so I associated with the syndrome now. It's not necessarily to say that I haven't got other creatures that actually don't follow this colour scheme that are rabid. Even Rabbit herself, Rabbit herself is blue and white technically, but she's not maybe as blue and white as Persona. But Persona basically has the same syndrome, so that means he can break down a lot. Now, he doesn't have Tranquillian, because one thing I forgot to mention a big key factor about Tranquillian. I will just backtrack here just for a teeny bit, because Tranquillian gives you real speech problem. I mentioned those, didn't I? Sorry. Do forgive me, I haven't made content in a long time. Yeah, okay, so Persona doesn't have speech problems, but he does have a slightly rabid voice, which gives a false impression of basically a fierce, scary being. He does look quite fierce in Persona, I won't be honest, but that's just the way he is. He just looks like that. He's actually very, very gentle and friendly, and has I would call it an autistic desire for hares. He absolutely loves hares and leverets. For that reason, he's made great friends with the dream gazer leveret, who's also extremely autistic gazing. Gazy literally is Tranquillian as well, severely Tranquillian. Despite that, his voice has took a hit tone-wise, but hasn't actually lost his speech pattern very much. Which shows that I think there might actually be two types of Tranquillian, and one affects the speech more than the other. But I haven't fully developed that yet. Rabbidia syndrome is just Rabbidia syndrome, and that's the effects. So obviously by having the hydrophobia, it means that the creature doesn't want to go near the water. And sometimes they can make a bit of a fuss, shall we say, when they fall in water accidentally. Nothing like a hydrophobic on Earth would. But maybe just a bit of a panic. Almost like they may be panicking they can't swim. A bit like when Sonic gets pushed into water. I don't know if Sonic the Hedgehog is hydrophobic. Okay, so the next syndrome that I want to talk about is those are two of the main ones, but there is another one I want to talk about. Would you class it as a syndrome? Hypermania syndrome, that's the one I was thinking of. Now this one is very different. Hypermania syndrome is almost like part bipolar for the Tranquillians. Only it doesn't lean towards sadness, it leads towards overjoyness. And it leans towards basically a hyper manic personality where you're basically wanting to always be active, always wanting to run about, always wanting to play with your friends, and never wanting to rest. You hate to rest. The creatures that are mainly affected by this syndrome are the Antolon and Xavier, the autistic zebra mare. She's really affected by it because she has something called Sapphire State. Some would actually call it Sapphire Syndrome, but it's Sapphire State. The unfortunate thing, of course, about having hypermania is that creatures with hypermania literally can suffer from great exhaustion after having, you could say, a busy day of just playing and doing their giddy stuff. Some that are in the hypermanic state as well, every now and again it can cause you to lose your sanity a little bit. Some sufferers, you could say, suffer from that more than others. Xavier doesn't very often lose her sanity altogether, but if her hypermania is really playing up, she can lose her sanity and start thinking it's just something or someone else altogether. So, that's hypermania syndrome. Now we're going to go into some of the conditions that can sort of tag along with these syndromes. I've gone across most of the syndromes, so we're now going to go into the conditions that can come with them. There's one of these I'm not going to be able to talk about it in full because it's a bit of a personal condition. So I'm going to try and make this as family friendly as possible. So due to that, I'm not going to explain too much about this one. And that is OPD. It's very common now. Obsessive prey disorder. This comes from the fact that all my creatures are carnivores, and comes from the fact that even though they can be carnivore in their DNA, they might not always want to hunt their prey. And if they don't and they're more sensitive, then they can develop what's known as OPD. OPD is an obsession where basically the primal energies inside of them start to spiral out of control and basically make unpleasantries for them, such as like dark thoughts and unable to sleep and stuff like that. OPD can be managed and they have to drain the primal energy, and I'm going to leave it there. It's quite a personal condition and has to be managed in private. OPD type 2 is a lot rarer. We have literally only about one sufferer of this one, and that is this young fawn here called Cyberseb. Cyberseb is a rare form of OPD that doesn't involve prey at all and is known as obsessive predator disorder. I should say it doesn't involve what's known as prey varna, which is a name given to the primal energy that is drained. But this doesn't actually involve any of that. This is just this is definitely more ASD, this one, because it's more of an obsession, and that is he wants to be around almost like prey all the time. But when I say prey, like dummy prey, almost like what's the word? Synthetic. That's the word. Synthetic prey, which is actually supplied for those suffering from OPD type 2, obsessive predator disorder. It's a little easier to live with, but Cyberseb says it does impact his life quite a bit because Cyberseb is actually a very sensitive young soul, and yet he has to be around all this almost like dead prey in order to feel normal. So you can see how these conditions really can impact you. Now, another condition I want to go over is euphonic syndrome, and I did almost forget to touch on this one. This might be one of the last main syndromes I'm going to touch on for this video, because this is a very common one now. Euphonic syndrome is basically like a shyness syndrome but cranked to 11. It's so powerful and so bad, it makes the sufferers think that their friends are going to attack them. It's almost like a paranoia syndrome that really can cause them to feel locked away and lost. And the most sad thing about it is that creatures with euphonic, and this is actually part of its traits, always want loved, but yet they can't bring themselves to interact with their friends too often. When it's not playing them up, they can act quite normally functional, but when they're having what's known as a euphonic attack, that's when the syndrome is at its worst and at its most savage. And creatures with that feel very sad and emotional because obviously they're just wanting to make friends, they're just wanting to have a nice day, and they feel too shy and too terrified of everyone to go anywhere near them. And if you go near them, they'll literally run away. That's how powerful that syndrome is. So it's a cruel syndrome, euphonic syndrome. I'll let you know that, my friends. Okay, hope you've enjoyed this little video, and look after yourself, and if you see any Tranquillians, give them all your love. Good night, my friends.